Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today's video is going to be epic. I am so super excited for this. I've been wanting one of these for a long time now. I've put countless hours of research into it. I've come close to buying one a couple of times, but never have. But this morning I received my very own brand new Foresight GCQuad. So we're going to unbox it together, we're going to set it up together, and of course we're going to hit some shots and see how it performs. I can't wait. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and let's jump into it. So just before we get into the actual unboxing, I want to give a huge shout out to Foresight and the support team there. As I've mentioned, I've nearly bought a couple of these units in the past that I've seen advertised on different sites secondhand, and they've always been there to give me their time and support to help to validate the unit, to help to validate the seller, so that I could have confidence what I was getting was legitimate. In the end, last week I found one that I was going to purchase, and I thought on the off chance I'd just email Foresight to see what offers they had before purchasing the second-hand unit. And sure enough, they came back with a swathe of offers, some really good offers, and eventually this one that I couldn't resist, which allowed me to buy a brand new unit, which I wasn't expecting. So again, a huge thank you to the team. And my advice would be, if you are thinking about buying any Foresight equipment, any launch monitor, speak to Foresight first, because either one, they'll be able to do you a better deal themselves, or two, they'll be able to help validate the unit that you want to buy and the seller, so that you can have peace of mind and know that it's legitimate. Anyway, enough talking, let's unbox it. So this is the box that arrived this morning, and to be honest, we were on to a great start even from delivery, because I only completed purchase of the unit on Wednesday morning. That was yesterday morning, and the sales rep said they would get back in touch and let me know when. They said delivery can take 5 to 7 days. I then got a message later in the afternoon from the courier saying they were expecting to take delivery, or receive, sorry, the package, and would let me know when it was going to be out for delivery. I woke up this morning to a text message saying it would be delivered this morning. It's actually delivered before 9 o'clock this morning. So the next day this unit has arrived, which is great, because I'm sure like me, when you've ordered something like this, you're so desperate to get it, so excited that you can't wait, and I thought I might have to wait a week for it, but here it is. So let's see what comes inside the box. So very well packaged. Let's see what we get. Hopefully you can see that. So as a starter, we obviously have our rucksack. This is the bag that you can transport it in. We have an Ethernet cable with the look of it. I'm sure that will come into play later on. And this appears to be the main box. I'm assuming everything else is going to be. So I can just take that out. Okay, so this is the box. Now there does appear to be a little bit of damage here on this corner. I don't know if you can see that. Nothing material. I'm not expecting that's going to affect anything in the box for sure. Although it's opening itself now. It might just be the way the box is constructed. Let's open it and see. So yeah, you can see here the chains. I'm guessing that should be holding that up, like on the other side. That's received some damage. I'm assuming that should be stuck here. I don't think that's supposed to flap open. Hopefully nothing in the box is damaged. Let's have a look and see what we have. So there we have it. The main unit itself. Just looking at it, there appear to be some marks on it. Well, that's just dust maybe. Definitely dust on it. Very dusty actually. Definitely going to need a wipe. So we appear to have the main unit here. That I believe will come to a later. I think that's the applicator for the reflective strips for the clubs. That appears to be the power cable, or part of the power cable. The other part is here. That is a USB cable, and we have the reflective alignment stick here, which again seems to be quite marked. Okay, so that's what's in the box. I'm going to unpack all of this and get it out and see if we can set it up together next. So everything's unboxed, just about to set it all up. I just had to say I'm a little disappointed in the box and the fact that it was broken. The actual box itself and the foam and the way everything has its own place feels very premium, as it should for the price, but the fact the box is broken, and that hasn't happened in transit. These are things that couldn't have happened in transit. That must have been the way the box was when they packaged it off. It just takes the shine off it just that little bit. That being said, it's no big deal, everything's intact, nothing's broken, and I'm pretty sure once I start hitting some balls later on, I'll forget about that completely. But yeah, just a small point, slightly disappointing. Okay, so let's just talk through the unit a little bit to start with, and then we'll turn it on and see if we can get it set up. So obviously, for those who have not seen one before, the GCQuad is a 4-camera launch monitor, and these are the 4 cameras here that it uses to collect all of the data points on the club and the ball. On the top we have very simple buttons here. You have the on and off button, up and down. The R is for right-handed hitting. The light is for the backlit display. That's a back button when you're in the menu. That's the OK menu button. That's left-handed hitters. The only other feature really to mention is that on the underneath there is a stand that can flip out, and that's the battery. These buttons are to release the battery, and that just gives it a bit more stability when you put it down on the ground to hit the ball. Now, I've not charged this yet. I'm hoping it has some charge in it. I would imagine it will. I'll turn it on. Yeah, it's looking good. I'll take a second to load up. There we go. Okay, so we have 35% battery, so that's good. I will put it on charge before we actually test it outside. It's setting itself up. There we go. Oh wow, ready to go straight off the bat. Look, ready to track a ball. So to get into the menu, we press OK, and then there's different menu options there. You have you have tracking mode. So if we go into that, it should hopefully, all things being right, have club on, so we can see it has club data. Now I think I was going to get a free trial of putting on here, so let's see if that can be turned on. No, it can't, so I'm not sure that's been added. I'll have to speak to Foresight about that. The next one is target alignment. So the unit naturally aligns in a straight line, assumes you're hitting straight at I guess a 90 degree, well not a parallel angle, sorry, to the unit itself. If that's not the case, you can set that with the alignment stick that we showed you earlier. I'll show that in the garden because mine will be slightly off center. Settings. So this is where you can choose your measurements. So I don't know if you can see that, but you've got you can use miles per hour or kilometers per hour. You can do yards, which is what I will keep it as. You can do spin axis and total. You can do face angle to path, or I believe to target. You can choose the options there. And then the air pressure as well, you can set that to air pressure differential at sea level or above if you want to. I'm certainly not that sophisticated to need any of that. Diagnostics. So this is hopefully going to tell us everything's good, it's the right version. So there you go, that looks all positive. And then the last one, which is just the about, which I won't go into because it will have the serial number, etc. on it. Which I don't think is wise to share on a platform like this. So there we go, it's all working. I'm going to get some charge into it. I'm also going to read up about the application of the reflective stickers to the clubs, which is part of what you need to track the club head data. And then I'll see you outside to hit some balls. So while the unit's charging, I've been reading through the instruction manual, and some intriguing things that I'm interested to see how they work in practice that it mentions, I just thought I'd share with you. The first one is that the quad requires re-registration every 45 days. Now, if you don't do this, the data channels like the USB, the Ethernet, the Wi-Fi will disable, basically. And it says it registers in two ways. First of all, it will automatically register if you connect to SFX software. Now, I don't currently have a PC or a laptop capable of running the SFX software. All I have is the app on my phone and my iPad. So I'll be interested to see if that's sufficient to complete the re-registration, or if in fact I would need a laptop or PC with the main software on it to do that. If not, there is another way. You can connect it directly via Ethernet, which is obviously why it came with an Ethernet cable as part of the package, and it should do it automatically. If you do either of those things, connect to the software or connect via Ethernet, it will re-register, and it will do it every time. So it won't just do it if it needs renewing. So if you connect it to the SFX software every day, it would renew the registration every day, so you wouldn't have to worry about it. The second intriguing thing is in the settings menu. So do you remember we quickly looked at, you could choose the velocity, you can have miles per hour, kilometers per hour, meters per second. Distance, you can choose to have that in yards or meters. Spin mode, you can have axis and total or side and back. The interesting one is face angle. So it appears that you have a choice between either face angle to target or face angle to path. But it doesn't appear you get both, which is intriguing. I'll be interested to see whether you can still see that on the app, even though it might not display on the unit itself. But if you have to choose in one or the other, that's a bit strange to me. The final thing that's quite intriguing in the instruction manual is the section about applying the reflective strips to your club face. So this is, let me grab it, this little applicator here. It has little metallic strips in it which you put on your club face to help the cameras to track where it is and give you club data. Now this is really interesting. It says put a single sticker on and it will track certain club data, or you can put 4 stickers on and it will track all club data. I'll put a picture in the video at this point so you can see exactly how it describes that and the difference in the club data that you get. So I'm going to, when I get it outside, try that. I'm going to try a club with 1 sticker, I'm going to try a club with 4 stickers, I'm going to try a club with no stickers as well, because I can't imagine tour pros are on a range with metallic stickers on their clubs when they're hitting and getting their data. So I'll be interested to see the quality of data that you get without using any of the stickers as well. So there were just a few things that I found interesting from the instructions. The final thing just to comment on before we get this thing fully charged and head out into the garden is the satchel. Now I always thought this was a rucksack, but actually it is more of a satchel. You'll see single strap on the back. It's very compact, very transportable. I'm really impressed with this actually. I expected it to be much bigger, much bulkier. It's not at all. Space inside for the quad, and obviously you've got a little pouch on the front for wires, and I'm getting the applicator for the reflective dots on the club face as well. Really like this, feels like really good quality. Okay, so here I'm in the garden. This is the setup I've got. I've got my hitting mat, I've got my balls, I've got a place ready for the quad. So I'm going to get it out, set it up, see how simple it is, and then start hitting some balls. I'll also screen record the app and see how that looks and feels as well. And then we'll do a summary afterwards. So let's hit some balls. Okay, so one of the first things you need to do is set up the alignment correctly. So obviously where my quad is, it's not pointing down the line really that I want to be hitting. I actually want to be slightly further to the left. So really simple to set up. All you need to do is get the quad, and if you lay down the strip that it comes with, the alignment stick here, within the ball hitting area, it will automatically pick that up and then adjust the alignment. So you can see it's 2.4 degrees to the left, and then what I've done is put my own alignment stick down for the first few hits just to key in where it feels like I'm hitting to the right area, and hopefully that should help to track. So I'm going to start with my 7-iron and I'm going to hit it without any of the reflective strips on the club and see what data we get. I'll screen record on the iPad as well so that you can see everything. Okay, so now we're going to apply one dot to the club face and just see what data it gives us. As I say, the booklet does say from the 0 dots you did get 0 club head data, it was just ball data. So we're going to apply one dot, hit a few more, then we'll come back and do all 4 and see what the differences are. Now, you need a ruler for this. It's not straightforward. Again, I'll put in the video the actual screenshot of the instructions. So if you bear with me, I'll try to do my best. So the instructions are to put it as high on the club face as possible and as close to the centre of the hitting area as you can. So that's what it is. So that's about 2.5 centimetres in from either side, and as high on the club face as I can get it to be within the grooves. So let's see what that does. Okay, so this is where it gets really complicated. The 4 dot is challenging to say the least. Again, I'll show you the instructions. Definitely need the ruler. My worry about the dots coming off, it didn't come off on the single dot, but when I've just come to remove it on my 7-iron to reapply the 4 dots, it slid straight off, no problem at all. So I think if you're doing this in damp weather, I'm expecting that these dots will not last more than a couple of hits, but let's see. Okay, so that was actually a lot more straightforward than I thought, and more straightforward than the single dot actually, because it's all based on the grooves and the edge of your hitting area rather than having to measure. So you put one between the 6th and 7th groove on the toe, slightly in, one on the 6th and 7th groove on the heel, and then one directly below and one directly above. So that's the 4 dot application. This should give us full club data. Let's see if it does. Okay, so there we go, super easy to set up, super easy to use. Hopefully that's been useful. But I have to be honest, and I don't want to be that guy, but I don't trust those stats for what I'm actually hitting, if I'm honest. So the swing path, I don't think was either out to in, or certainly not the degrees it was saying. The loft seemed wrong. My distance, I was flushing some of those 7-irons and it was getting like 130, 140 yards. Should be on at least 150 to 155. So I'm not sure what it is about the setup. I certainly don't think it's the unit. So my setup's not level, obviously. It does slant as you're looking at it from right to left, which means the quad's slightly above where I'm hitting. Yeah, I'm not sure what it is. So I'm going to go to the range and take it and see if I get some other numbers, see whether that changed anything, or if indeed I've just forgotten how to hit my golf clubs, which is always a possibility, and I would be upset if that was the case. But you know, they say data doesn't lie, so I'm hoping it's the setup that I've got it here at home, which would be good to know. so that I can at least have some idea what numbers I should be looking at here and what that would actually translate out on an actual course. So I'm going to go up to the range and then see what we find there. So I guess just some final thoughts to wrap up the video, and maybe to start with I'll revisit some of the points I mentioned earlier. First of all, the re-registration of the quad every 45 days. It doesn't re-register if you connect to the FSX Pro app, which is what I've been using. It's only if you connect to the FSX 2020 or the SFX Play that it would do that. The Ethernet though is pretty straightforward. I've done it, you just plug it straight into your router, it updates, and you need to do that every 45 days. It's no problem at all. But that does bring me on to an interesting point, which is if you pay for the software, and the software isn't cheap, especially if you go for the SFX Play, the most recent and up-to-date version, you do need to have a very powerful gaming computer to go along with it. So I'll put here the minimum software requirements and the minimum requirements to run the SFX software. I don't have that, as I mentioned earlier, and I've done a bit of research, and to get a laptop that would be powerful enough because of the effects cards etc that it needs, it's going to be at least £1,000 on top of what you've already spent on the quad to be able to utilise that software, which includes the virtual golf, etc. Now, you could probably get a PC that's cheaper, but for me, because my setup is in the garden, I can't be lugging a PC in and out. I definitely need to get a laptop. But it was only after I'd purchased it that I got the software requirements and realised I couldn't do it on my MacBook, for example, or any of my other devices. That is something to be aware of, especially if you're thinking about paying extra for the software. The second thing I mentioned was the club data and being able to choose between face to path and face to target. The app does capture both. It's just what displays on the top of the unit that you're selecting in that menu. And then the third bit was the club data, the dots. Now obviously, as you saw in the testing, at no dots you get no club data, 1 dot you get pretty good club data, 4 dots you do get the complete club data. It's a bit of a challenge with the 4 dots, I have to be honest, because one of them, the middle one on the toe, the one that's between the 6th and 7th groove on the toe, seemed to come off a lot. The others are okay, but that one especially seems to come off quite a lot. And again, part of it's probably because of the conditions we're hitting in a minute. It's not particularly dry, it's a bit damp, but even still, I just get the feeling that's going to cause a little bit of a problem, and that does affect the data. So going back to my not being comfortable with the data and some of the data it was producing, full disclosure, I'm actually recording this part of the video after a few days, so I've managed to figure some of that out. Part of it is alignment, so if you don't get the alignment right, obviously it feels like the club may be coming around the outside more than it is when it's actually coming inside out, or maybe just marginally outside. The second issue is, especially when you use the 4 dots, And this is potentially quite a big flaw that I really wonder whether Foresight can do anything to fix. But if one of the dots comes off, any of the 4, it reverts to single dot mode. Now the problem there is, any of the dots that remain, none of them are in the 1 dot position. So I don't know which dot it then decides to read, but I'm guessing it's one of the ones on the toe, which means it thinks the toe of your club is the centre of your club. It's picking up the 1 dot, and that's where the 1 dot should be. And so suddenly your data is all over the place if just 1 dot comes off. And if you happen to notice, I don't understand why one of the dots couldn't always be in that 1 position. So actually, if the other dots come off, you've always got 1 in the right place. Because if you put 4 on and 1 comes off, you have to take the other 3 off, potentially, to then go back to 1 dot mode, or put another dot on. But especially when it keeps coming off and you just want to revert to 1 dot mode, you've got to take all of them off and put 1 on. It's not ideal, and as I say, it can throw the data out. Just on the data though, the other thing that's brilliant about the software, this is the SFX Pro software, which I was using on my iPad. Pros and cons. Cons, on a mobile device, it's terrible. On a phone, for example, the menu is not optimized for a smaller screen, so the menus are tiny. The camera actually gets in the way of being able to tap options. It's really terrible. On my iPad, absolutely fine, no problem. It produces a wonderful report, and I'll show a screenshot of one now, just to show you the level of detail that it gives. Now this is primarily designed for fittings, etc., so I guess it's no surprise it gives that level of detail. But really impressed with that. For me personally, I can download those reports, I can send them to my coach, and he can see what I'm doing outside of the lessons. He can see how I'm hitting when I'm at the range, etc., which is brilliant. The final point, I guess, is who might use this and who it's going to benefit. It's an expensive piece of kit. The things that really impressed me about it, first of all, it was so easy to set up. You saw, took it out of the box, turned it on, you could have hit straight away. Now that's because a lot of the other equipment that you'll buy, especially radar-based equipment, you'll need to connect to the app just to hit, and that can be difficult. And the same with this. It's not always the most straightforward to connect the quad to the app. Once you get it, it's fine. Similar if you've ever hit any of the radar type technology. So I used to have a Mevo Plus, and I had the same problem with that. Trying to connect the app to the unit was a bit of a challenge. You've got to do it by Wi-Fi. It's not always straightforward. Similar with this, a bit more straightforward. But if you didn't use the app, you could literally turn it on and just start hitting. And I thought that was amazing. That was super efficient, super easy to use and set up. The other big benefit for me is because of the setup I've got in my garden. The reason the Mevo didn't work very well is because you've got to have a certain amount of distance behind and a certain amount of distance for the ball to travel, because it's radar based, so it's tracking the ball. Obviously the quad is camera based, it's looking at what's happening at the point of impact. So actually not having that long between hitting the ball and then the ball hitting the net doesn't have any impact on the data, which is a big reason why I wanted to try and switch to the GCQuad, and that worked superbly. The data was absolutely spot on. As I mentioned, the issues I were having partly was down to swing, but was partly down to alignment and the dots coming off. That's why my data wasn't looking great earlier. But once you get over those hurdles, it's super easy to use. It's brilliant. I mean, it's worth every penny. I know they're expensive, but it is worth every penny if you're able to get it. And that's without even having to, or being able to use at this point in time, any of the software. So at some point in the future, I'll probably buy a laptop. I'll probably set up the SFX 2020 software that I have. I'll probably do a little bit of the virtual golf, and I'll probably make a video on that. But for now, I really hope that was useful for you. I really hope that was informative. Please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. Let me know in the comments below if you enjoyed the video, if it was useful. If there's any other questions or anything you'd like to know, please ask it in the comments below. I will make sure that I go through and reply to them all. But for now, see you on the next video.